There's this one character that just pops up in stories all over the world. A figure who lives right on the margins, breaks pretty much every rule, and somehow seems to thrive in pure, beautiful chaos. They're part cultural hero, part selfish buffoon, a creator and a destroyer. Today, we're diving deep into the Trickster.
But that brings up a really interesting question, doesn't it? I mean, think about it. We spend our lives building order, making rules, trying to create stability. So why are we so drawn to the ones who just gleefully tear it all down? Why do we secretly find ourselves rooting for the agent of chaos?
So here's how we're going to figure this out. First, we'll explore the whole paradox of the necessary troublemaker. Then, we'll get into the trickster's toolkit. What actually makes them tick? We'll meet a few famous ones from around the globe, see how their chaos actually fuels creativity, and finally, we'll figure out how we can tap into that energy ourselves.
All right, let's jump right into that central paradox. The trickster lives in this super strange space in our culture, walking this razor's edge between what we're supposed to condemn and what we, secretly kind of admire.
And this overlap is where it gets really fascinating. A con artist lies for their own gain, right? But a prophet reveals a divine truth. A medium might be called a fraud, while a mystic is seen as enlightened. But they're both operating outside the normal rules, claiming they have access to some kind of hidden knowledge. The trickster lives right in that blurry, uncomfortable in-between space.
So to really get a handle on this, we need to define our terms. What exactly is a trickster? Because it's a lot more than just playing a few pranks. It's a very specific set of tools, a whole constellation of traits that shows up again and again.
At its core, the trickster is an archetype. And all that means is that it's a universal pattern that brings a bunch of ideas to life. It's not one specific person. It's a role that can be filled by anyone or anything. A coyote in Native American stories, a god in ancient Greece, you name it.
So, what's in this toolkit? Well, deception is basically their native language. They disrupt order just because. That's what they do. They are the ultimate boundary crossers, moving between heaven and earth, life and death, you name it. They also often represent this raw, unrestrained, primal energy. And this is key. They are almost always connected to magic and the supernatural.
Okay, theory is great and all, but this archetype really comes alive when you meet the actual characters. So let's meet a few from different cultures, because they show the incredible range and power of what a trickster can be.
And a lot of this analysis, by the way, is grounded in the incredible work of George P. Hansen. He dug into the deep connection between this character and paranormal phenomena, showing that this isn't just about old myths, it's about a fundamental part of the human experience.
First up, let's talk about Hermes, the Greek god. He's your sophisticated, clever, charming trickster. Literally on the day he was born, he stole his brother Apollo's cattle and then just lied his way out of it with a smile. He's the god of merchants, thieves, travelers, communication, all these things that exist at the boundaries, right? Things that involve a fluid exchange of information or goods. And this quote just nails it. Hermes isn't just about pranks. He's the god of synchronicity. You know, those weird, meaningful coincidences? He's the lucky break, the flash of insight, the message that shows up right when you need it. He's basically the god of what happens when your perfectly made plans go completely sideways.
Now, let's do a complete 180 and meet Wakdjunkaga from the Winnebago tradition. This guy is a primitive, selfish, total buffoon. He's driven by his most basic instincts. Hunger, lust, you get the picture. Get this, in one story, his left arm literally starts a fight with his right arm. He's just this chaotic force who often messes things up for himself, but sometimes his bumbling around accidentally creates something good for humanity. He's that raw, unfiltered trickster energy.
And finally, we have Esu Elegba, the trickster god from the Yoruba people in West Africa. He is the ultimate boundary guardian. He stands at the crossroads, both literally and metaphorically, and he's the messenger between the gods and us humans. He embodies transition, ambiguity, and the power that exists in the spaces between things. He's a reminder that any change, any communication, has to pass through a trickster's territory.
So we've got these gods, these buffoons, these cosmic messengers. What is the point of all this chaos? Well, it turns out the disruption isn't just for fun. The mess the trickster makes is actually the fertile ground where creativity and innovation are born.
To really get this, we need this amazing concept from anthropology called liminality. It describes a transitional state, a threshold. It's that betwixt and between phase. You're no longer what you were, but you're not yet what you're going to be. Think about any rite of passage. In that liminal space, the normal rules just don't apply. And that is the trickster's home turf. And the anthropologist Victor Turner explained it perfectly. This is where real creativity happens, in this in-between space. All the old rules and categories get broken down into their basic parts. It's like taking a Lego set apart. And then you can recombine them in new, playful, and yeah, sometimes really weird ways. It's the sacred space where innovation is born right out of chaos. Now, I know this all might sound a little mythical, a little abstract, but stick with me because there is a huge lesson here for our superstructured modern lives. We can actually learn to harness this trickster energy, not to become con artists, but to unlock whole new ways of being creative and free.
So how do you actually think like a trickster? Well, first, just pick a boundary you take for granted and ask why. Why does that rule exist? Second, learn to be okay with ambiguity. Resist that urge to find a simple answer when things are messy. Third, find the play in a problem. Look at it from a totally different, maybe less serious angle. And finally, practice recombining old ideas. Mix and match concepts from totally different areas of your life and see what happens.
You know, the scholar Barbara Babcock boiled this all down into 3 perfect words. What we need for creativity, for real change, for genuine freedom is a tolerated margin of mess. It's that space where things aren't perfectly neat and ordered. It's the room for error, for play, for the unexpected connection. Without that messy little margin, everything just becomes rigid and stale.
And so that leaves us with one final thought. The trickster isn't just some character and an old story, it's a force that challenges the very structures we build around ourselves. So take a look at your own life, your job, your relationships, your way of thinking. What boundary, what rule, what assumption needs a little bit of that creative chaos? What part of your world needs a trickster's touch?